A CISO's power trio are governance guru, boardroom whisperer, and team builder extraordinaire.
Welcome to CyberOXtales, the podcast where cybersecurity scenarios meet reality. In each episode, we'll sit together with the top cyber pros to dissect major security incidents, giving you actionable insights and practical advice to fuel your playbooks and success. Ready? Let's go.
Hello. Hi, I'm Neatsun Ziv. I will be your host today at CyberOXtales. And today with me is Devin. Devin, why don't you present yourself?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I'm Devin Rudnicki. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer for Fitch Group. And of course, as my company would like me to say, these are my own opinions and not Fitch Group's.
Amazing. So, one of the things that I really want to focus in the discussion today is being a first-time CISO. What does it mean? How does it feel? How did you get there? And we really want to learn about your journey and what are your insights from it. So, I'll start with something simple. When did you first think about becoming a CISO?
Great question to kick it off. So I want to take it back a little bit and talk about when I first started in cybersecurity. So I first started in cyber during college. Really, what happened was I was in the right place at the right time. I was at an internship fair, and I went up to the hiring manager, and who became my first manager, and I impressed him by bringing business cards and waiting patiently to talk with him, even though I did not have any experience with cybersecurity or anything really related. I was studying mathematics at the time, thought I wanted to go into actuarial science. But after he gave me that first chance, that really changed everything for me. Because that's when I started doing the internship and realized cybersecurity is where I wanted to be. And after that first internship in security governance, that's where I really got the first exposure to what a CISO is, what a CISO does. And I was amazed and thought that that would be a great job. And that's where I want to be someday.
So, how did you jump from an internship position to becoming the CISO? It sounds like a long journey to do that.
So I think I have been really fortunate to have great supporters along the way. And I've gotten a lot of great experience both on the non-technical side, right? So being more in that GRC, security governance role, but then also gaining on the more technical side and more aligned with you as well, right? With application security. So having both sides there has really helped me become and get into the CISO role today.
So let's roll back for a second. You started an internship. You kind of saw security and said, "This is interesting. What's next from internship?"
Yep. So then from there, I did do an internship also with EY, and that gave me more of the audit and advisory experience. That was really interesting, just getting to see different clients as well. But then I also did some time with identity and access management. Implementing SailPoint for the first time was a really great experience that taught me many things. And then that led me eventually to my first full-time role, which was with EY. But then I got poached back and went back into security governance, and that really then took off my journey in cyber.
So now that people usually get to the CISO role from two main pillars. One is the GRC and the other is the networking. This is how it used to be. It's kind of changing right now, especially with the transition for applications being in the center and cloud being in the center. But it seems like you started really from the GRC side and then started moving to the more technical side. How did that happen?
So I got a really great opportunity, like most things, right? So I was in GRC, I was in security governance, and then one of my colleagues, who was the application security manager at the time, she was going on maternity leave. And it was great because she asked me, and with support from upper management, asked me to take over for her while she was on maternity leave. And that really started my journey in application security. The team was amazing because there was a lot to learn, let me tell you, right? And just going from having a non-technical role to then actually even just being hands-on coding in CI/CD pipelines, that was a whole new experience for me. It's a lot of new things that I had to learn.
Oh, definitely. Meaning application security is definitely one of the hardest fields in cyber. So that's a big jump. But if I'm doing the digest of what you're saying is like you've got opportunity, you're jumping on them. This is the genre that we are seeing along the way so far.
Yes, and make sure you have great mentors and leaders to help you learn, as well as I think you have to take the time and do some self-study, right? Because if you're not going to take that time to do personal hands-on discovery, especially in a new field like that and going from a non-technical to a technical, I think that's what you really need to do.
Okay. So you've been doing a few roles. You gain experience in identity, in AppSec, in GRC. When did you first had your first managerial opportunity?
So it was in security governance. That was the first time initially, and then I switched over into that AppSec manager role as well.
Okay, nice. So what are the three major skills that you're saying that you learned across the way to actually get to the CISO role?
Yeah, so CISO role has been really interesting. I think it's been a mix of everything that I have learned to date, but definitely a lot of things under the GRC umbrella more so have been very helpful. So having regulatory compliance experience is really helpful coming into the CISO role because you have to understand what the regulations are, how you can address them, and then be able to sufficiently explain them to the regulators, as well as guiding the team to understanding what we need to do to be in compliance.
Okay.
Executive reporting is also a big thing too, right? Because you need to be able to communicate to the executive committees, the board of directors, just communicate to the business and be able to explain in business terms what cybersecurity risk is and what the potential impacts could be on the business to enable the business to make risk-informed decisions.
So I'm hearing a lot of communication skills.
Yes, yes, that is probably 150% of the job.
So break it down for me. Like, give me two examples of good communication versus bad communication. Things that you did not understand in the beginning and now you kind of learn them.
Yeah, so for good communication, I think that has been really being able to engage with all of the potential stakeholders and getting everyone on board. So let me just give you an example, right? When I first started building the application security program from scratch, we had to pick out all of our application security tools. We had to figure out which ones we wanted to go with. So what I did was I stood up a group, a kind of working committee, if you want to call it, with members from the different development teams and then the DevOps teams and a lot of other stakeholders and made them part of the decision on which application security tools we were going to choose. Did a whole scorecard and scoring process, but that really made them feel involved in the process and brought them along in the journey and then made implementing the tools across our environment much easier because everyone had been part of that decision.
And give me, I would say, an opportunity to learn from.
Yeah, an opportunity to learn from. So I think that a lot of times in security, sometimes we think, we need to protect the business, right? And we need to just come from a place of no. That has been the traditional, very old traditional sense of security. And I've seen many examples of that. But what I would like to tell my teams to do, and what I do tell my teams to do, is always think of option C. You know, what can we do? What mitigating controls can we put in place? Because I've just seen too many times where security teams just say no instead of thinking outside the box and trying to engineer new solutions to work with the business, but also by reducing our risk.
Okay. So one of the questions that you hear quite a lot, especially as stepping into the CISO position, is should a CISO be with hands-on experience, or is it more a managerial role that thinks about risk in a more abstract way? How do you reconcile this, the gap?
So I always think when people say, "Do you need hands-on experience?" then a lot of people instantly go to more of the hands-on SOC experience, incident response experience, and I strongly believe that you do not need to have that detailed hands-on experience. But I do think that you need to have some cyber hands-on experience. So whether it's something like application security, right, where you are actually developing in CI/CD pipelines and deploying applications, putting security scans in, something. But you've got to have some real-life examples and understanding of technical workings to be successful in the CISO role.
So you're saying like it's fine that you'll know one, two, or three domains. You don't need to know every domain possible, but you do need something to understand better the hands-on. This really helps you on your day-to-day job.
Yep, exactly. And I think that was one of the misconceptions that I had before I became a CISO, is I always thought that I needed to have experience in all those different security domains to really be successful at this role. But being in the role has now taught me that no, you don't need to have that. You need to instead have really good people that can help explain and you can trust their opinions to be able to lead in the CISO role.
Okay, so another question that gets a lot of traction is always, where should the CISO report to? And understand that you've got a very interesting situation. Can you help us understand, like, what is the advantages in reporting to one person versus another person in the organization?
Yeah. So I've actually, to date, before this year, I'd only reported to a chief risk officer. And that's great because it does help you maintain the lines of defense model, right? So you've got your first line that's actually doing the controls, and then your second line overseeing the controls, and then, audit as the third line of defense. So reporting to the CRO helps you clearly maintain being on the second line, and it also provides you looking at things really from a risk lens. But starting this year, I'm reporting to the Chief Information Officer, and that also has a lot of benefits too. I
So
think
quick,
that,
just a quick explanation. When you're saying CRO, you're saying Chief Risk Officer, not Chief Revenue
yes,
Officer.
sorry, yep, yep.
Okay. So what are the main things that you see different on the day-to-day, risk versus IT?
So I'm only 9 days into reporting to the CIO, but I can say already that I'm very excited because I think it also enables the information security team to be more innovation and business focused because we're looking at things and being able to partner more closely with all the other groups underneath the CIO. So I think, taking that different lens is going to have a lot of its own advantages.
So I'll take you back to the beginning of your CISO tenure and ask you, okay, how did you plan your 30, 60, 90-day plan? How did it look like?
Yeah, so for the first 30 days, my advice is to really meet with as many team members and external partners, I guess within the organization, right? But external to the information security team. Find out what they think is working well and what can be better. Establishing relationships with business leaders during that first 30 days is extremely crucial. You really want to be concerned, my belief is, anyways, that information security should be enabling the business and providing value to the business. So it's really important to have those relationships so that you can understand, what are the business leaders worried about? What are they working on? How can information security best support them? Oh, and while you're doing all of these things, also make sure you keep the lights on and keep operations and projects running, right?
Yeah,
Um,
we had people on the show that had the first incident on day number 2 of the on the job. So definitely, yes, if you can avoid that, that is definitely a preference.
Yep, yep. And then in the first 60 to 100 days, I think it's really a continued expansion of a lot of that, but it's about understanding the current state of affairs. You need to understand which areas need your attention immediately.
So let's say within 100 days, you kind of understood what are the risks, where you want to focus your attention, what are the places that you want to make the biggest impact, and then you started rolling out the plans to execute them, right? That's kind of the game.
Yes, yes. And building relationships though along the whole way, right? Because that's going to set the scene for the rest of your career, I think, as a CISO.
So let's say that you passed the first 100 days, you kind of detected where are the places that you said this is where we should focus. How do you communicate this to your peers?
How to communicate. Yep, so it's about building out a roadmap and building out a strategy. So one of the biggest things that I did this past year, my first year as being a CISO, was completely redoing our information security strategy. And my approach to that was making it outcome based and tied back to industry standard frameworks, the risks that we're addressing, the corporate business objectives that we're helping to achieve. And I really wanted the document to become something that's imbued with everything that we do rather than just being the document that you look at once a year, right? I think I've seen that and heard from other peers as well that a lot of times, it's time to update our strategy again, right, on an annual basis. But I really want to make sure instead that we're continuously working towards our strategy and being able to demonstrate progress against it. So this year, actually, all of my team's performance objectives are completely based off of our strategy outcomes. And then that way, everyone knows how they're contributing to our overall strategy and makes them feel like we are moving the needle.
So now that you've done this transition and you're in the position for a while, what is one thing that you can recommend for people that are right now starting to consider whether they are ready to do this transition? Single advice, what would it be?
Ooh, you're making me narrow it down to a single advice?
Single advice. It's all about the communication.
I think it's the key is to really do a self-reflection as well as talking with a mentor, managers, and looking at what is my current skill set and understanding what your strengths and weaknesses are. And here's the skills that I believe that I need to get into the CISO role. And then make an action plan to actually work on those and go from there.
So one of the questions that we get quite a lot from people coming into a place, not necessarily first time CISOs, but every time you do a transition, you get a team. How do you create an alignment between what you inherited and the strategy that you need going forward? You've got your plan 100 days in. How do you do this assessment saying, do I have what I need? I don't have what I need. I need to strengthen it. How do you do that?
So again, it's talking to a lot of people, right? Because understanding and getting different perspectives, I think it's so important. You can't do it in a vacuum. You need to really talk to everyone to understand the state of affairs. But then you do have to take all those different inputs, right? Because I'm sure that person A might tell you something completely the opposite of what person B tells you too, right? So I think you have to do a little bit of your own research and digging to be able to really ascertain the current state and how you can improve the team. So, my very smart new manager always says rather than being cost center, we should be a value center. We're delivering value to the business. And so I think that it's important to center your assessment around that and identifying, here's the areas where we can improve to really deliver value to the business. So that's one thing. And then a lot of advice that you probably have heard from other CISOs as well, and or anyone moving to a new role, is doing some type of maturity assessment, right? Determining from an objective standpoint, where are we at, where do we want to go, and then what's the action plan to get there. And then it also enables you to track your progress going forward.
Okay, so you got in, you assess your team, you know what are your strengths, you know where your weaknesses, you've got a plan. How do you communicate all of this to higher management? How do you say, like, we've got a plan, we know what the risks are, we know what the probability are, and this is what we feel comfortable with? How do you do this? What format are you using?
Yeah, so we use PowerPoint, as everyone else does. But I think it's about you have to communicate it in a lot of different forms, right? Because I think that a lot of times, executives especially, there's so much information incoming to them. So I think that you have to kind of build that brand for information security and continuously reiterate parts of your strategy and your vision. So whether it's, at board meetings or executive committee meetings, you need to ensure that your messaging is consistent across the board and presenting the strategy and presenting the way forward at multiple points is really helpful to gain traction. So I want to say a big, huge thank you to everyone that has really helped me along the way. I've had so many great mentors and managers and coaches throughout the years, and though they have really helped me get to this place. So thank you to everyone who has even taken the time to just talk with me. A big part of getting to the CISO role is networking and hearing from other people's journeys, right? And taking pieces of their journeys and seeing how you can apply them to your own. So I really appreciate everyone who's taken the time to do that. And then also having an amazing team that has helped me make this transition into the CISO role has made all the difference. It would have been so much more difficult if I didn't have the team that I have today, and especially the leadership team who has really helped me stand up and move forward with this new strategy and with the new programs.
Okay, if there are people out there that are considering right now the step and want to communicate with you, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I love chatting, so you can find me as Devin Rudnicki on LinkedIn.
Amazing. Devin, thank you very much for sharing all of your insights and helping a new generation of people trying to step up into the executive risk officer committees. Thank you very, very much.
No, thank you for having me.
That's a wrap on another episode of CyberOXtales. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your peers. Visit us at ox.security/podcast to access all episodes and exclusive content or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.